My beautiful souls, this is Maria Lupita Gurule, and today I want to continue again the conversation about soul agreements and contracts, and today to talk specifically about how they're made. So every single one of us as a soul on the other side has available to us guides, and oftentimes a council of guides. And guides are very different than angels. And angels are very different than what some of us would think our loved ones are our guardian angel. Our loved ones definitely look over us, keep track of us, want to keep us safe and send us love. But we also have angels that are committed to us for our oversight while we are here. So that's like our guardian angel. And that is a class and a phylum of benevolent beings completely and entirely of their own. They are beings that are in partnership with us to help us and assist us and provide, hopefully, assistance when we're able. They will never interfere or intervene without our asking. We live in a world of free will and choice where imposing any action is not allowed. So, unless it is of absolute dire need and that it is not written within the soul's contract to experience that, will something happen? The example I have for that is that when I was young, before I even had kids, I was en route through a winter storm, and it was sleet coming down onto the windshield, and sleet is water and ice. And it was so cold that everything was instantaneously freezing outside. I was in the passenger seat, and the driver had to crank up the defrost because it was instantaneously freezing and as it hit the windshield. Well, I had gotten so hot because I was so bundled that I had just unclicked my safety belt, and I started to take off my coat. And in that moment, just 5 minutes before, actually, there was a cop that drove by, and we had the radio going, so we could not hear what was actually being said. And we didn't realize that that cop was actually telling everybody to turn around. We missed it, had the radio blast, didn't even hear the warning. Well, 5 minutes later, as I'm detaching my seatbelt, taking off my jacket, we hit a patch of black ice and the truck begins to go into a tailspin. And in that moment, I shouted out, "Oh my God, help us." And in that moment, from my corner's eye, I could see a light pole that was just on the side, and we were headed straight for it. So I braced myself as I shouted, and nothing happened. So I opened my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, the light pole was on the other side of the vehicle, as if we had somehow phased through it. Like somehow it deatomized and we went right through it and ended up on the other side. But I also shouted out, "Oh my God, help us." I asked for help. It wasn't my time, and I was spared in that moment. So that is possible and it does happen. So we have these things that are written within our contract, and we have these windows of opportunities that we ourselves set up, and angels being there to assist us in the process. And again, not interfering unless asked and allowed, given permission. And guides are different than angels. Guides are themselves master souls that have already incarnate. They have gone through their entire process of incarnations, completely fulfilled their ability of application of all those morals. They have become master souls in a sense of where they are able to then guide others. So they are experts, as if you will, that are able to provide assistance to us as we are navigating these lifetimes in these incarnations. So they are there and available to us, and we have oftentimes multiple guides available to us, like a council. And oftentimes, those of us that are here to provide great service, that our incarnations are not just about learning, our incarnations are also about offering service to the world. Some of us are offering that service by playing those most difficult parts and roles to help the rest of us push us to learn and grow. Or there are also souls that are having to overcome and make amends and rectify past behaviors. Some souls that are here that are really entrenched in their darkness, um, serial killers and murderers and others that are of deep darkness are here to help overcome lifetimes of that darkness, given opportunities yet again. The earth is a unique place because we are given free will and choice, which other domains and other growth places where souls incarnate, because we're not the only planet. Come on. There are universes within universes, and those are called the multiverse. And there are multiverses within multiverses, and everything that holds everything is called the omniverse. So, oh my gosh, there are multitudes of life forms that span through space and time and dimensions. Anything and everything that can exist does exist. We are just here as one form in a human body in this one experience. But there's so much out there. Oh my gosh, the things that I have seen and have been shown boggle the mind. Every possible reality that can exist does exist. Every possibility that could be is, because who am I to say what is possible in God's great grand world? That in God's great creation, that anything and everything is possible. Who am I to say what is and what isn't? Oh, I dare not. So we have multiple universes within universes, multiverses, and the omniverse with an infinite sea of life and life forms and life bodies where we're all here for the learning and the growing. Earth is unique because there was a great atrocity that took place upon the planet a millennia ago, where we are a developing planet that was meant to develop uh, um, a creature, a being that was able to be fully biologically, neurologically functioning with the capability of housing spirit, with the hope of having what's called soul fusion. When we allow the spirit within us to flow and work through us, that we fuse with that spirit and it flows with life and life works. That's what we were meant to be here from our inception. But there was a great atrocity that took place upon the planet an age ago. This energy that is now on the planet at this time, this deep, dark, dense, patriarchal, aggressive, warlike energy that is here, has been here for an age and was frozen here. It existed prior to the Great Flood and then was frozen upon the planet, where it has been steeping and infusing the psyche of humanity for this age. That was by design. We are incredible and far more powerful than we can possibly even imagine. That our absence would send ripples through space and time. That's how important every single one of us are. And we are here at this moment for such a special time upon the earth. The blue pearl, the blue rose, this divine emergence that's happening right now. So we are here by agreement. We choose this. We're not sent here. We choose it. It's our own choice, our own agreement. And when we agree, we must have a general plan. And that general plan for our incarnation is our soul's contract. It is that all of the intricate pieces of our agreements combined into one body as our contract. It is a contract with us and ourselves, the spark within us and God, because the spark is God, the spark of God that animates us. Every single thing that is in existence has a spark of God. We are included. You are alive and breathing because it is in there. That is the part of us that returns when our bodies expire. That's the consciousness, the life essence, the life force that is here. So we are incarnate here by agreement and by contract, by the things that we want to accomplish. Because of this energy that has been frozen upon the planet by an age, it is now being allowed to melt, recede, and retreat. Now we have been, I don't want to say brainwashed, but in a sense that is truly indeed the case. There has been an intentional deception of humans because of what is happening. Yes, climate change is hard because that means that our planet is changing, but it's not the first time. Our planet has gone through climate changes like this many, 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 many times. Over the entire course of the life of the planet, we have gone through thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of ice ages. We go through cycles just like seasons. So an ice age is winter. And then what comes after is the next phase. If you research it yourself, you will see that there are ice core drillings upon the planet that indicate that these freezings and these ice ages have happened upon the planet since its existence. And there's proof of it within the soil itself that shows it. So this patriarchal dark energy that has been frozen upon the planet is now being released. Now we're looking at it as a negative thing, which it is because it's bringing change, but it also is again bringing that renewal. It is allowing that energy that has been frozen and allowed to run rampant and to take the soul off course, the soul's energy of the planet and all of the souls that live with her in that direction, and now is course correcting. And so we are able to come back into balance. Every single soul that is here and incarnate on this planet at this time, we fought long and hard to be able to be in this great number at this time. For every single person, soul that is incarnate in the planet right now, there are now about 4 or 5 souls on a waiting list wanting to incarnate, to be here, to be part of the great transition of this sector of our universe within the galaxy. Oh my gosh. That is the ascension. We're emerging out of this deep, dark, dense, two-dimensional reality of polarity, of opposites, and of separation. Good, bad, right, wrong, black, white, here, there, up, down, me, you, us, them. Now we're emerging into this new, fresh energy. And in order for the earth to come with it, we have to release everything that no longer serves. It is like a wound that has been upon the planet that has allowed to be there and fester and is now cleansing itself out. It is like an infection that has been there and is now healing. But in order to do that, changes come. So before before this time, the great floods upon the planet, this great cataclysmic sudden change that changed the axis of the planet, and then a freezing of all of that energy that took place and began to stay stagnant and frozen and allowed again to fester. That dense energy we are now coming out of. We are coming out of the three-dimensional reality into a higher, more elevated vibration and frequency, another dimension of ourselves, another facet of ourselves, another ability of ourselves with greater light, frequency, with greater ability, and with ease. And in order for all of that to happen, we got to get rid of everything else that isn't serving us. And the good majority of us, that's a good, huge portion of our lives. If we have habits that are not serving us at this time, they're coming up so that they can be let go. And it doesn't feel good because it means change. We are here incarnate by contract and choice because we want to be here. I know it doesn't feel good. I know that so many of us are hurting and in pain and saying, how could I even possibly? But just know that it is. Its existence doesn't require your belief. It exists whether you believe it in or not. And if once we are able to grasp that concept, not a concept, but that truth, then we can allow it to flow and work with us in greater ease. And when we have a better understanding of who and what we are and why. And so now, as the planet is going through this deep transition herself, fires, floods, the melting, all of the climate change, the even the thinning of the ozone layer. That is why that is why there's so many efforts out there. There's a whole okay, let me just stop here and say conspiracy theory, not theories so much, because anything and everything that can exist does exist. It just depends on how deep you want to go into those conspiracy theories. But there is a whole faction of humans out there that are working against this uplifting out of this deep, dark, dense energy. They're playing their perfect role and they may not understand the role that they're playing, but they're contributing to it. So there is that duality. In order for the light to exist, there has to be the dark. In order for the dark to exist, there has to be the light. And if there is this big, massive, huge infusion of darkness that is being released at a critical mass upon the planet at this time, in order for it to exist, the good has to exist also in equal and opposite proportion. So we are just not able to see it because of how we are looking at the world. If we put our thumb up in front of us and stare at it, and that it represents all of the problems and the issues of the world, then if all I do is stare at those issues and problems, it skews my vision of anything else, and everything beyond it looks, I see two and it's blurry and it's confusing. But if I learn how to shift my perception beyond it, how to soften my gaze, how to just be able to look beyond that, even though it is still there, I am able to fully, clearly see what is in front of me with clearer vision. No longer is it obstructing it because that's what I'm focusing on. It's still right directly in front of my face and in my eyes, but I can see really clearly beyond it. We as humans are learning how to also change our perception in this same way. That if you are able to look beyond what is right in front, and you may say, well, that is what's real. Well, there's a whole other world that is also emerging that is just as equally real if we're able to allow ourselves to adjust our perception to see it. So many of us are just attuned like a radio station into that radio station. So it's going to take some time to adjust into the new. And all we got to do is give our mind, our eyes, and our filter and perceptions a different job. Right now, the job has been looking at all of the things that are hard and bad and wrong and not going good in the world that obstructs our vision. So instead, just say, okay, well, I know that that exists. The evidence of it is all around me. So now I'm going to give myself a new job. I'm going to look through it. I'm going to look beyond it. I'm going to see and read beyond it so that I know that there is something else actually out there, even greater and bigger, that we can begin to develop ourselves. It's pretty amazing. We can give our mind a new job instead of just focusing on all of the wrong. Give it its job to begin to find the good. And when you do that, you give it something to focus upon. And then in order for us to really allow this new energy to come in, The most important thing for us to do is to restore and renew our childlike innocence. Our childlike innocence, where everything is new and we are not jaded and have judgments and perceptions. When we restore our childlike innocence, we are able to also restore our sense of unwavering faith and to begin to trust the process of life. And trusting that process of life begins with ourselves. And when we learn to trust ourselves by understanding that we chose this, then we are fully empowered to be able to change it and correct it the way we want. So, soul contracts we ourselves make. We have these divine wise guides on the other side that assist us. They know all of the intricate things that we are wanting to develop. We also get to share and have choice in the development of that as well. So we work with others and then also an entire soul family. We incarnate with soul families and soul groups. Oftentimes, soul families and soul groups are working on similar things together. And oftentimes, these things that we're working on require multiple lifetimes, either because we're not fully grasping it or because we're giving the ability to take turns to learn the experience. Okay, this time I'm going to be the bad one, but don't hate me. But next time you're going to be the bad one, and I promise I'll try my best not to hate you. We do that for each other because this is where we learn to apply what we know in theory. So just remember that concept that what we know on the other side is grand and all knowing, and we are here to apply those deeper inner wisdoms and knowings, hopefully. And not all of us are here just for the sake of learning lessons. So many of us are here to also provide service for the gifts that we have. And so when so many souls have the ability to be able to be mulchers, there is an entire class of souls, and I don't want to call them class. There is an entire group of souls upon the planet. That's the better way to say. There's an entire group of souls upon the planet whose jobs are similar and doing what I call mulching. If you think of mulch, mulch takes trash, mulch takes the garbage, it transmutes it, it converts it, it breaks it down, and then allows it to become rich, deep, dark, dense, and fuels, and able is to transmute the hardness, the garbage, to make something that is fertile. So there are many souls upon the planet at this time that are mulchers. And this is hard because we don't know how to cleanse that energy for ourselves. I was one of them. I felt like a dumping ground. I felt like a dumpster where people would just come and dump their shit. And then I would be left holding their stuff, trying to process it plus my own without understanding what I was. Some of us who feel this deep, dark energy are here with purpose to take it in, to feel it, to retune our perception, to take it within ourselves and mulch it, break it down, and make it something fertile to offer up. We do that through our healing. The more of us that are able to go through our hard, difficult circumstances, we heal it for all of humanity. There are many programs, similar programs, like software programs that are running on the planet right now. And those are abuses of all different kinds. So, sexual abuse is one class. The oppression of women is another. Um, there's a multitude of them. So, those are the two that are coming up because of the examples of Gabby Petito and the indigenous women that have been coming up in these examples. So, those are some that come up just to mention a few. So there are the souls upon the planet that when we are able to heal that experience within ourselves, any abuses that we ourselves have experienced or even committed to another, because we're human, we hurt people, hurt other people. And we don't know how to do better until we do. And so it's okay. We're in this together. When we know better, we do better, as Maya Angelou says. And so just know that we're here for the learning. It's like a toddler. When a toddler doesn't know better and we're here, if the toddler keeps doing that same bad thing over and over and over, then yeah. But until they learn, right, that we're in the same situation and in the same boat. So an agreement of mulchers that are here when we're feeling difficult things. And so we have infused within our contract those difficult agreements so that we can help process the negative energy upon the planet that has been here to exist for an age and a millennia. When we heal it within ourselves, we heal it in the world. When we heal ourselves, we heal the world. And so our job is only to heal ourselves. And that's what our soul agreements are about. So when you begin to take on the heaviness of the entire world, you can't change anything other than yourself. And those of us who are feeling that heaviness, come back to your soul's agreement. Your soul's agreement is to heal you and only you. And when you work on feeling better for yourself, it contributes energy for the whole and the good of everybody. Because we're coming out of that duality and separation and into the age of connection and unity, where all of us contributes to the whole. We all do already. We just don't understand that we do. So when we know that we all are interconnected, and when I help myself, I help uplift everybody. And that when I uplift others, I also uplift myself. And we do this in this constant ebb and flow, in this intricate dance in life to help one another. If you can imagine, for every one of us, there's 5 more waiting and wanting to be here. What would we do differently with this opportunity that we're given with that knowledge and awareness? How do we need to come back to ourselves? So when we are on the other side prior to our incarnation, we work with our guides and our spirits and also our full soul family and groups. We work on all the intricate things that we ourselves as individuals are working on, but then we are also here to say what is needed for the whole, what is needed for the humanity. And so some of us come in with intention to provide that service, and hopefully we'll eventually do that. And that is what we call purpose. When we connect to what feels good, the thing that calls our attention, the one thing we need to do, we know we're doing our soul's purpose and our soul's agreement. That's the way we know. So there is a way to tune in and check in with how we're doing. And again, we'll know by how we feel. Our feelings and our emotions are a complicated communication system from our spirit, also instigated through either our angels and our guides, that they'll actually have a pressing upon. We'll know by how we feel. So when sometimes we're in icky spaces where you can feel the hairs on the back of your head rise up, or the neck, better yet, because of the energy that it feels, is because energy around us. We are energetic beings. We are the most complex, complicated, highly attuned instrumentation that exists. Incredible. So we create these soul agreements, and then we decide who we're going to come into and how we're going to do it. So about 6 years after my NDE, I had an experience of deep understanding of this by nothing that I read, by nothing other than a conversation that I had with my own children one morning on the way to school and daycare. So maybe I'll end this conversation this way. I've mentioned in my videos that I had 2 extreme pregnancies. The first one, I had a simple pop out, but not a full on experience. It was the beginning of one. But my son, who was firstborn, was born needing to be resuscitated. So many of us, through our NDEs, have the removal of our filter from that experience. So if you can imagine my son being born 10 and a half weeks early, premature, and having to be resuscitated upon his birth. So he has had no filter from the moment of his birth. So fast forward after that experience from his birth, 6 years. My son is now about 6.5, and I'm driving him to kindergarten. And my daughter at this time is about 4, and I'm driving her to daycare. And we had recently moved, and so I'm driving them to a different school zone so that my son could ride the bus to daycare after school. And so we were passing a school zone near our own home and neighborhood. And my daughter Bianca at the time was in the back seat, and she was just reflecting on the morning and was saying, "Oh my gosh, mama, you're my best mama ever." And in a panic moment, she said, "Have I ever had another mama?" She's always had this intense attachment to me because of that feeling of separation from the NDE from the moment of her birth. So she went into a panic moment at that time. Have I ever had another mama? Eyes big and wide, and they're in the back seat. And I'm driving through a school zone and completely at a stop at this moment. And I look at her in the rearview mirror and I say, all of a sudden, out of my mouth, "I don't know. Maybe you were my mama at one time." And then I'm in a panic moment thinking, what just came out of my mouth? I had just been beginning to explore reincarnation, trying to understand my NDE. So I'm listening to this at this time and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And my son Mateo had a habit where he would cross his arms in the back of his head and he would just kind of kick back and in the back seat. And all of a sudden he gets up kind of like annoyed and he reaches over to Bianca and taps her and says, "Bianca," he says, "before we're born, we pick whether we're going to be a boy or a girl, who our mama and daddies are going to be, what we're going to do. And then when we're born, we forget it all. Mama, how come I can't ride the bus?" Just like that. So I'm driving in a school zone, jaw completely dropped, thinking, who in heaven are these kids? And who am I to be their mama? Yeah, out of the mouths of babes. My 6-year-old son. Oof, I could share some stories that young, powerful soul taught me. I feel that he was sent to me in advance as a guide, incarnate, to help me learn all of these things I was meant to apply after my NDE. So from that experience, oh my goodness gracious, learning that deepest understanding from none other than my own children. Oh, wow. So yeah, soul contracts, soul agreements. We decide whether we're going to be a boy or a girl, who our mamas and daddies are going to be, where we're going to live, what we're going to do, and then we forget it all. That's one of the conditions of our being incarnate on this earth plane is the amnesia effect. Because if we were to have full absolute knowing of every single thing that was to come, first of all, we remove our free will and choice. Destiny and fate is the plan. We have fate and destiny by achieving the things that we desire that have been set up for us. And so that is destiny and fate. And then free will and choice is hopefully having the courage to make the choice and act on those soul agreements. That's the difference. So we have this amnesia state so that we can experience and then hopefully from deep within in the guidance, apply those things that we're here to apply. Some of us who have horrific agreements within our contracts, it is meant to be a safeguard for our psyche because if you imagine that we're always flinching and holding ourselves for a blow, we would never fully have the courage to live because we know that we're bracing the blow. So instead, we go through and come upon these experiences and hopefully tune in with ourselves and go with those guidances and adjustments by how we feel so that we don't feel the full weight of all of this pile up of choices that we have ignored and resisted. And when we have those really awful soul agreements with others that are violent or abusive, the amnesia effect serves so that we're not in the state of blocking for the blow, but hopefully also allowing the other soul to make hopefully a better choice, and then also to help ourselves navigate through it. If we know every single thing that is to come, again, we take away that free will and choice and our ability to act spontaneously in the moment and application of everything. There's so much to be said about spontaneity, and there's so much to be said that whether it comes naturally out of us, and hopefully we'll make those choices when those times come. And so that is the other part of this amnesia. And that amnesic state begins to lessen. And so when people use terms like the veil is thinning, or different terms as that, that's what they're describing, is that they're describing this coming out of this deeper, darker energy, which, if you want to use the word ascension, we are ascending out of this deeper, darker energy into a greater vibrational state to allow some other experience to come in. And so the majority of us, every single human on the planet, has a contract with each other at this time, because we're in it at this time as humanity. We operate as a whole, and then we come into our more localized areas, just like we would our communities, our greater souls. So we have soul agreements with other souls in our regions, in our areas, in our countries, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our families, in ourselves. So there's layers and layers and layers of all of these different soul agreements and how we choose to show up. And there's a way to explore what those soul agreements are, what those soul contracts are. And those can be actually done through a guided session, a guided visual, through a hypnotherapy session, other things such as that. And those are fascinating to experience. Okay, so I pray I answered the question, because, oh my goodness gracious, I did not expect it to go. I never have any expectations. So I pray that this makes sense. I thank you for your time once more and for allowing this to just flow. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Blessings to us all. Until next time. Bye.